Nurse.org and Major League Sports teams are honoring nurses with discounted game tickets and once-in-a-lifetime experiences. From throwing the first pitch to riding the Zamboni to on-court recognition, join the fun. Visit nurse.org/nurse night to find a nurse appreciation event near you and grab your discounted tickets today. You're listening to Nurse Converse, presented by Nurse.org, a collaborative podcast amplifying diverse nurse voices. Get ready for a dose of inspiration, a sprinkle of education, and a whole lot of community.
Welcome, everybody, to the Nurse Converse podcast. My name is Colton. This is
Glenn,
also known as
Daddy Dazo of NurseDaddies.
Slay. And yes, we are sharing a microphone. We have two, but ran into some technical difficulties, missing some cords. So, we're just going to share the microphone. It's going to be okay. But we are here to do a special episode emphasizing pride. And that is why we are here. So, yes. And also his chair is very squeaky. So I told him he has to stay still for the entire time that we're recording.
Can you imagine for an hour? And what? How long is this going to be? 45 minutes? An hour?
Not an hour and 45 minutes.
Okay. So, you guys, if I'm just sitting like this, something's wrong with me. Somebody call 911. Because, pride has nothing to do with me sitting like this and not moving.
Anyways, so we should start off this episode kind of how we started our last one. I think it's how we started our last one, but let's do our Diablo spritz so we can be glowing for the girlies, okay? Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is that enough?
That's enough.
Okay.
Yes, it's my face, my hair, or my cap. It's all right.
Slay.
Oh, it feels so good. It smells so good. You guys should try this Dialba spray. It's a white truffle serum. And we should stop talking about them.
Oh my God. So salty. Okay. Anyways, yeah. So here we are. We're doing a special pride piece for the Nurse Converse podcast. And we thought we'd kind of just talk about like our personal experiences with being gay and kind of when we take you through our personal journeys to coming out. I think some people have like a big story of how they came out. Not everybody does. And I think ours is different as well. So we'll just kind of talk about that and touch on our experience in healthcare with being LGBTQ. So what do you think about that?
What do I think about being LGBTQ?
Yeah, talk to us about your story to coming out. Did you have like this big coming out? Did you always know? Did your family always know? Was it accepted for you growing up? So just walk us through what it was to be Glenn Dazo in the Philippines as a flaming little gay boy.
Oh. Well, I was closeted, but I think everybody knew that I'm gay. Growing up, I've always been very close with my mom. I'm always very feminine with my ways. And I normally don't go out and play with a lot of kids. So it was very vividly one summer we went to visit. My grandfather had a home in the middle island in Cebu because we live in the south. And every summer we would go vacation at our ancestral home. But before we go to that place, from the port, we would stop at my uncle's place. And I remember vividly that my uncle was like, "Oh, here comes the what did he call me? Oh, not lady boy, girl boy."
Just why? Because like your mannerisms or the way you talk?
My mannerisms are just like, I'm just very slow.
How old were you at this point?
I think I remember I was probably 10 or something. And then, but my dad obviously knew that, your parents know what their kids are. And he was kind of protective, but not really, because I think he was also angry that he sensed that his firstborn male child is going to turn gay, because he figured that out as well. Like, your parents know what you are. Then he would just like literally whisper to me and said, "Go sit with your mom." So that's why I kind of know, but I've always been, but there was not much because I don't know why I wasn't really so in tune with my sexuality growing up, like in high school, because I was very young. And then I went to university, and then I was just like a young kid. Not
well.
Really.
So when you were like growing up, like were you the type of kid that was dating? Did you have girlfriends, boyfriends? Did you ever kiss a boy or a girl when you were younger, or was that something you just weren't doing?
wasn't doing. I wasn't really doing. Like, we were so like it's a different. It's part of our culture. I don't think that the young kids. Like, it's frowned upon when you go home and tell your parents, "Oh, I have a huge crush." Unlike here, I
Well,
think
it's like
it's
most of us
cultural.
don't say anything. We are lying and acting like it's not happening.
But it's not even with girls. You probably would be telling your parents. You would go, "I'm like, oh, I like this girl." Like, no, not even with girls. They would probably like, "Oh, what are you doing? You're such a little kid. You go to school." But you know what? I was in fourth grade. So fourth grade, probably fourth grade. I was probably 8. This new kid came. I still remember his name. In fact, I actually stalked him on Facebook.
Oh, sure. Okay, how
I
is he looking
know.
today?
He's looking not so cute.
Is he gay?
He has a family with some kids, and he still lives in our island, in our province. We call it our province because it's a city now, but it's still smaller. We're still up in the mountains, and his dark complexion, like dark skin. I think that's why I know I really have like a thing for like dark skin. But though my boyfriend now is fair skin, but he was so cute. He was the son of the principal.
Okay, wow. I
Yeah,
love that. Wait, so
and
were
we
you
were.
but tell me, is there a moment in time when you like knew? Like, do you remember that? I always wonder if people remember. Was there a specific moment, and maybe you don't remember, where you were like, "Oh yeah, I am
I'm
definitely
gay.
more attracted to boys." Because maybe like at that young age, I don't think we all can rationalize that really what that means. But was there ever like a moment that you can remember where you're like, "Yeah, I'm definitely a little different. I don't feel what they're explaining to me towards girls," or no?
No, there wasn't. Like for me, it was just he's new and we were friends, but I kind of like him. And then I really made sure that we were partners because one of our subjects, I don't know why we had to do gardening. It was part of home and economics. I think. And we had to garden and then made sure that we shared the same plot of land that we were like gardening. I think we were planting tomatoes and cabbages. We call it pet chai.
And you're like, "Wow, I really love the way that that boy plants those cabbages."
I I don't even know. I just know for some reason, like I just like to be paired with him. And then, I became friends with his younger brother. And then his younger brother was asking me to write little love notes to this girl who was like on a grade, like on grade 5th grade when the younger brother was only 3rd grade. So it was just weird, but we were became friends. But then the year after that, they left again. I think they transferred to a different school because their mom was like, yeah, I think she was just a transient principal. Like when there was like an opening, she would go and then because I went to church school, a school that's attached to the Seventh Day Adventist Church, and also being gay in that congregation or that kind of religion is taboo, and they don't speak about it. Anyway, that was
I
my
think that's common
story.
for a lot of religions. So,
Right.
okay.
But there was no coming out story for me. There isn't because I think coming out stories are part of the white culture. It's so white, I
I
feel.
don't think that's true.
Oh,
I
that's
think it
true.
depends. Maybe it's not so much Filipino, but that's not true because I know people of many different cultures who have stories of having to come out. I even actually know one comes to mind of a Filipino that I have talked to who was born and raised in the Philippines who had to have this coming
Coming out
out
story.
story. So I don't think that's totally true. I think everybody has their own story, and maybe you just don't have that. So it was kind of when you got older, was it just with your family, with your friends? Was it just like this unspoken thing that you just never had to explain and people just eventually caught on? Or like, so you never had to like tell anybody? That's wild to me.
I had to tell one of my friends. It was really my good friend, but only like when we came to America. And this was like maybe 20 years ago. And I told him, and of course, he probably just like rolled his eyes. And I'm like,
Like,
oh, we
duh.
all knew, we all knew you were, and you are. But no, it's not. It's not something that we speak about at home. No one never asked me. My brothers, my siblings, and no one asked me. But there was one time it was funny. I was home for. This was some time in the past, maybe 10 years ago. I was home and we had a little gathering. I cooked for my family, and one of my aunts came, and she's like, "Oh, look at your other cousin." And my other cousin is a lesbian, but she's not doing well for whatever. She was just there, and I felt like, why are you like, picking on her when I'm also gay, but you're not picking on me? It's because I, I support my family and I come from America, and this girl just lives here. So I told her, and like, soon as I told her, I said my piece. She left. She's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go home. I have to take care of something at home." But she hasn't eaten dinner. But I think she got mad that I told her like, "Don't do that," because you know what? that's her identity as well. But you pick on her, but not with me because I don't know what her reasons were. But yeah,
So growing up, was there anybody that modeled being part of this community? Was there anybody that you saw that, even though maybe you weren't allowed to express yourself totally in that way, was there anybody that you were seeing that was openly gay, or was that something you just didn't even see? Not even, because I even think back to when I was growing up. You see it more commonly now, but I didn't even really see that on TV. So I'm curious if you saw these kinds of things as you were growing up, if you had anybody that modeled what it was like to be, anywhere in the LGBTQ plus community.
no one. I didn't have to look up to anyone because I feel like it's everywhere in the Philippines. I feel like it's not talked about, but it's kind of wildly accepted. There are like celebrities who are gay, and there's a lot of actors, and like you find in the movies that are, they do roles. They're typical of like being gay, but yet I didn't really have to look up to anyone. I mean, my realization was when after I graduated college and I left home. I was in the capital city in Manila, and then I met this co-worker, and he kind of introduced me to the frivolities of being gay. That's when I knew that yes, this is me, and then this is what I like, and then that's what happened. And then from then on, I moved to a different part of the world, and that was it. And the rest is just now me.
Now you just walk in a room and it's not even a question.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I guess I can give a little backstory on mine.
What about
So
yours? Do you have a coming out story?
what's that?
You have a coming out story?
Yeah, I mean, I do. There's actually a film called Coming Out Colton on Netflix, maybe Hulu, but it's Colton Underwood. The guy that was on The Bachelor.
Oh, I don't watch The Bachelor.
I don't either, but I know who he is. Like
Okay.
he you don't know who Colton Underwood is?
No, I don't. Who is that?
He was The Bachelor, and he ended.
What Bachelor? What season? I don't even know.
I don't know exactly what season, but he was The Bachelor, and he ended up, like having a girlfriend. Like somebody won the show, and soon after The Bachelor, they broke up. I don't know his whole story. I don't want to tell his whole story. There's watch the film, but then shortly thereafter, and he had a really there was points in the season where he was very emotional, and just you could tell now in hindsight why. But yeah, after the show, or he came out publicly, and then he ended up having this film called Coming Out Colton, and it explains his whole journey from to be that big in the spotlight, be gay, but you're on this show where you're trying to find a woman for love. Like that's traumatizing. So it just talks about all that. Now he's married to I can't remember his name. Somebody in politics. Jordan. His name's Jordan. They have a baby. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. And all this time while he was in The Bachelor, he'd hidden it so well that no one knew about it. Did he leave a life that's so just?
Well, what I think happens, and I when you're in that, because for me personally, I remember when I was younger, I was in such denial that I really had convinced myself that I was straight. And I have a very different story from you as far as there's some similarities. I grew up in a place where it was not accepted, a very small town, so it wasn't like I had anybody that modeled being gay. The one person that I knew who was gay, I will keep everything out for privacy purposes, but I knew him through, he did work kind of with my dad, and my dad was friendly to him. But once we would leave, I just remember hearing things that were, amongst my dad and his friends, that were just not friendly things to say about gays. And so that was just what I had modeled to me. And no shade to, my dad or my parents at all. I always say they did the best that they could. That's also the information that they had at the time. So that's what I had modeled to me. So of course I was very afraid. I had these feelings when I knew I don't know the exact moment, but I was, the first time I think that I was wow, I'm very attracted to this, was watching High School Musical with Zac Efron.
Oh, so you were in love. That was your first love?
Yeah, that was my first crush.
I think my first crush, celebrity crush, my first one is, well, I have to say it, it's Richard Gomez. He's a huge celebrity back home, and he was the model for this clothing line Bench, and he did just this just tall, statuesque, and just dark, not dark, but olive skinned, dashing, debonair.
That was your boy.
And yes, and he actually fenced. He was a fencer for the national team to compete in the Southeast Asian Games, and he also was a scholar. So he was like rowing.
Wow.
Yeah, so he was like, oh yeah. Now he's married to he's now a politician. He's like a mayor of a small, that's a small town, a town where my boyfriend is in the island, right?
Oh,
Yeah, but
interesting.
also I remember, now I remember when we were growing up, there's this baker who makes birthday cakes and wedding cakes. And I know his name, I don't have to say it, but they would always say, I'm like, oh, I think my dad had made a reference to him, something like, why do you act like that? Like, you look like this person, or like you act like this person, which is like he's gay. Because
Right.
I was also baking cakes.
Hey nurses, looking for exclusive discounts? Nurse.org has you covered with deals on everything. Save big on the essentials you need to excel in your career. Don't miss out. Visit nurse.org/discounts for the latest discounts made just for you.
Those things stick with you, and when they're in like a negative connotation,
Yeah.
it sticks with you. And as a kid, you internalize that however you do, and then everybody responds to things very differently. And yeah, so then for me, I actually like had girlfriends. I dated girls all through high school into college, and I had just always suppressed that feeling that I had. And it wasn't until after college, I had never told a single soul in my life that I had any kind of attraction towards men, that I thought maybe I was gay. And it wasn't until my girlfriend that I had had through college, who was one of my very dear best friends growing up, she ended up, we broke up, and it kind of just like opened up this door for me to explore who I was, and that, kind of that avenue that I had never explored. And again, in hindsight, it's kind of scary because I don't think I did it in like the safest way either, because, you're hiding who you are. So I'm like getting on these apps that aren't always the safest places to be. And just like, I would just like meet random people, and then I would meet them and delete the app because I didn't want anybody to like know I was on there, and so that's how I ended up meeting my husband at the time, was through that app. And then once I had met him, we had dated for a while, and probably like 3 months before I had told anybody. And I first kind of told just like a couple of very trusted friends, and then it was like my sister, and then even months and months after that, it wasn't for like a year that I was dating him that I ended up telling my parents. And I sent them a text message because I didn't want to know their reaction. I didn't want to see their faces. So I sent them a text message and said, hey, this is my boyfriend.
So
Yeah, this is my boyfriend. And just so you know, like, this is my life now. And thankfully, my parents actually, they took it pretty well. And but it doesn't take away like all those traumatic years that I had to go through hiding that. Because I feel like if I had come out earlier in my life when I was younger, it would have been a very different reaction from everybody in my life. And so that is my coming out story.
nice, like very interesting. I thought in college, actually, I was attracted to these girls. In fact, we remained friends, and we're still best friends right now. Like, we vacationed together. We went to Hawaii together, with her husband. But I was so attracted to her. But I think that the attraction then, I realized now as I'm older, the attraction wasn't really physical, her being a woman, but it's more of her not her physical attributes, but just her emotional intelligence, stuff like that. That's what I was attracted to her. And she was like, she came from a nice family. Our family, my dad knows her family. And it was so funny because I think I brought her one time to our house, and my dad thought that I was like with her, but not really. And then also, but I was really like, I was so enamored, but to the point where I'm like, would I? But then I was like, oh, no, no, I'm not. I don't. But then also another instance was a teacher that was my clinical instructor. Actually, I liked her, that really, like, I kind of pursued her, but she didn't like me. She liked my best friend, who I would go with. Like, we would go hang out with her, and that was the best friend I told. Like, when I felt like, I'm out, but really, like, I told him, like, his name is John. I'm like, John, I'm like, whatever. He probably knew already.
Yeah.
But yeah,
yeah, I think that's how it goes. Like, when I think about it, I was 24 when I came out publicly as gay, and that's a long time to live your life as being in this body and in this life as somebody that you're not your true self.
Mhm.
And so I think, a lot of people, if there's anybody out there listening to this that may be dealing with the same kind of feelings and struggling with that, my best advice is to find safe people. And even if that's just one person, because the first time you say it out, I had never said the words out loud. And then the first time I said it out loud to somebody that had known me prior, and they gave,
are gay.
yes, like when they gave me the response that was like, that it wasn't, the world wasn't going to end after that. And once I told one person, or actually it was two people, two of my very best friends that I told after we were obviously very intoxicated, and they finally got it out of me. But I told them, and when I got a very loving response from them, it gave me the courage to then, tell the next person and tell the next person, until eventually I would be able to just announce it to everybody and then just be myself. So I think that that's a really important thing to touch on. Let's talk about being gay in the workforce. Have you ran into any trouble, any issues, or like had any kind of, I mean, you've been at the same job for quite a while now, but have you ever felt any kind of like discrimination, whether that's from staff, the patient's management, or anything that has made you feel like your being gay has made somebody look at you as less than?
No, I never had felt it that way, because I feel like when I came, there were already like, obviously people of the same orientation as I am. So it's not new to them. I think it was new because there wasn't any other Filipino who was gay that joined the workforce where we're working now. But I felt very accepted, and everybody just, embraced me for all my, my flaws and whatever that I have, shared with them. So really it was a safe place. I've had some problems with patients, when patients like just call you names, but with my coworkers, no, I don't think I felt like I'm very much accepted for, 'cause I wasn't hiding anything. I came in like just how I am right now. So, and if you don't have anything to hide and just yourself, then I think it was just pretty. I mean, it was no issues at all.
I think that's what you're saying is, and this is not an easy thing to do by any means, but when you truly just show up as yourself, as you are, and just leave it all out on the table and let people see you for that, there may be people who are uncomfortable with that, especially at first. But I think in the long run, people actually feel safe and trust you more because they know that what they're getting from you is who you truly are, and that you're not trying to like hide anything about yourself. Again, it's way easier said than done. It's something that I feel like I still work on every day. And I noticed this, like you're talking about working here in Boston, it really does depend too on where you're living geographically, the facility that you're at. I mean, I came from Arizona, which it's not like Arizona is like way behind the times, but it's just different demographic of people. And working at the hospital that I had worked at there, I had so many great friends, wasn't really the issue. But there was a couple of us who were part of, the community. Moving out to Boston, working where we work now, it's like everywhere. And it's nice to be working in a place that has representation of the LGBTQ community. And I think the same thing. I've never really felt discriminated against for like getting a job or anything in that sense, but I've definitely had patients use very, very vulgar terms towards me, and I'm sure you have too.
Oh.
And it's I noticed, at first I was like very taken aback and it would offend me, but now I'm more just like, it's obviously a them problem. They're not getting what they want, and that is the only thing that they have to dig at you, is to be like calling you very vulgar names that I'm not going to say. But I think that that's why patients even act that way, or it's that, or they're very old.
Yeah.
And
But from my experience, it was really just very disheartening, because this person was also part of the community. And I mean, for him to degrade me to a word that, even like, we are the same. But
that doesn't make sense to me.
he later apologized that he was just very frustrated because he wasn't getting his pain medicine. And I think that was the issue. But I kept telling him, like, you're not due for it right now. I'm going to ask if we could give you another dose or this and that. And it's like, called me the F word. And I just looked at him. I didn't even say anything. I just looked at him and I'm like, but you are as well, like, just like me. Like, why do you do that to me? Yeah, but I felt very safe. I mean, coming to where we are now, because if you really have to think about it, Massachusetts, I think, was the first state that legalized gay marriage. So we're kind of like in a safe haven. We don't have to worry about our sexuality or being exposed. And I just came just how I am, so it was all right.
Yeah, and again, I think that's really an important point to touch on for people who maybe are living in an area or working in a facility where they don't feel as safe. If you have the ability to go somewhere that has a higher representation, I think it's really helpful for you to, one, just feel safe, and two, just like find your community, find your people. Places like San Diego or Boston or New York City or LA, Seattle, like it's usually these bigger cities that you when you're there, you can walk on the street and you can, kiss your partner, hold their hand, and nobody even thinks twice. That's one thing I love so much about, I think, New York City, because no matter what you're doing, literally nobody pays attention to you. And I understand that it can be very hard to work in maybe more rural areas or somewhere where that's not as accepted. But yeah, if you have the ability or the means to go out there and travel nurse or experience a new city, it's amazing what you'll find when you go somewhere and immerse yourself in the culture. Because even once I had come out as gay, even to this day, I've still never been to I've never been to a pride event. I just
You've
haven't.
never been to a pride event?
I just haven't. It just hasn't. No, because
Then
before.
that would be the goal for this year. We are going to Chicago. I already told you.
Yeah, Chicago Pride. We have options, really.
No,
I actually hear that. That Providence actually has a really good Pride event, but I want to go to New York Pride.
But okay, the schedule for the Pride events are simultaneously at the same weekend as the New York and Chicago.
I know, so we have to choose.
So I think, well, for you to be, I'm not sure. Those are two major cities, and they're very, very popular with their gay events. And
I say we have, New York's obviously closer and easier for us to get to, but I've never been to Chicago, so, and I need to have my Pride cherry popped, girl.
God, how many cherries are we popping? Last 2 years ago, we popped your Broadway cherry.
Yes, and now I'm a Broadway girly. How many shows have we gone to?
I don't know. I think you've gone to 5 or 6 already, right?
I think more. I will say one thing of being Daddy Dazo's friend is I really have been more immersed in the culture, because how can you not when you're walking around with a walking gay billboard?
I don't know how to take that. I think it's
a compliment.
No, it's a little offensive sometimes. But
why?
Yes, because what else is this? Right? Yeah, this is. Yeah.
I'm sorry, bro. I know you're a straight dude.
Right? Yeah.
We should do the rest of the podcast talking like we're straight. Okay,
right.
Go.
Yeah, dude. Remember when you were dating that girl?
Yeah, bro. I remember. She was so hot.
And yeah,
I'm sweating.
I'm sweating too. I can't even move in my chair because it was squeak. So
I'm sweating. I think it might be some of the caffeine too, because I actually got into the spirits. I don't usually drink iced coffee, but all the gays do. So I made myself iced coffee.
Really? Not just the gays. The gays, everybody drinks iced coffee. The girlies as well. Come on.
The gays and the girlies, they drink the iced coffee.
Yeah. Anyway, so what else are we going to talk about? So, okay, talk about your first relationship with. Oh, this is interesting. I want to know, or the people would love to know. The Nurse Converse universe, the world, the space needs to know who and when you came out of the closet. What was it like to be with a boy?
To be with a man, versus a woman?
Yes, I know you already told me about what it is to be with a woman. I don't want to share it with you guys because
it's not PG. Okay. The details I shared are not PG. Okay.
Oh, I'm associated.
It's very. It is very different.
Share? Yes, he's gonna share. Okay, we'll listen to him.
It's very different to date a man versus a woman, because you just like. I don't even know how to honestly put it all into words, but the emotional, and this is dependent on each person too, but men and women just process things differently. We all have different needs, different wants. And I think for me, especially going from being in a hetero relationship, you assume the role of the man. And then when you date somebody of the same sex, it's someone usually assumes the role of the more masculine, and the other one assumes the role of the more feminine. But
is that really what it is?
At first, because for me especially, I had never been in that, so I was this is so weird. What is my role here? What I found as relationships progress, I think things can kind of not necessarily like flop, but maybe more so like I got more comfortable with being just being myself, in the sense of some days maybe I do like assume this more like I don't even like the word like masculine feminine role. I just mean like in the like in the dynamic, depending on like if you're emotional or you're going through something, like it's okay as a man to like then let your partner comfort you, or those types of things, versus like when you're in like a man woman, at least like how it used to be. I think things are getting a little bit better as we progress in the world. Like the man can't show their emotions, and they can't allow like the woman to comfort them, or like be the one who like makes the money. Again, I think it's 2025. Like things are shifting to where like women are, the ones making more of the money, while the men are staying home with the kids. But that for me was like the hardest, was to like, what is my role in this relationship? And again, I've almost been a free bird out of my cage for it's been this month actually, for like 5 years, 6 years.
Wow.
6 years. Yeah.
6 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, things have changed a lot, and just like the way that I see, my role in a relationship.
Okay.
Okay, that's just all you have to say. Just okay.
Okay. Okay. I'm like, yeah. I don't know.
Are you stumped on that? Or?
Not really, but it's just we all have different experiences. Like, I've never been in a lot of relationships myself. I've never been with a woman. Again, I've told you I've liked women, but nothing really came out of it. But I am in a long distance relationship right now where there's not really clearly defined lines as to sexuality, as to why we're together. I think it's really just my boyfriend's thing is that I like you for who you are, and you don't need to label me,
And I
which
like
is
that.
which is kind of fluid, and I like it because he liked me for the person that I am, not for what my sexuality is. And that shouldn't define our relationship. Our relationship is just, and I like it that we're like long distance, because if you really have to think about it, I've never been with a person like intimate for however long. We've been together like officially 2020. All that time I was living alone. So I think it works for me.
No, I think I like that, because I think what you're saying, like what you're proving is, we don't have to you don't have to be in these traditional relationships. You don't have to have you meet somebody, you move in, you get married, you have kids, and you buy a house with a white picket fence. Like you're proving that you can love somebody, and you can have your own spin on it to where it works for the both of you. And even though you are like thousands of miles apart,
Right.
like it works for you, and like that's all that matters. As long as you're both getting your needs, wants fulfilled, and you're both happy with it, like it doesn't have to be this traditional way of living. And I think that's something that being in this community has shown me, is again, with like these roles we assume from just traditional culture, you don't have to do it that way. Like you can rewrite it however it works for you.
Yeah, but I'm always met with trepidation and people asking me all these questions. I'm like, oh, he's just after this and that. I'm like, no, you don't get it. But you know what? We probably, unconventional, because that's not what everybody does. That's not typical of what everybody does. But I'm trying to make it work, and it's working.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you define that for yourself, and
right.
people are always going to talk. People always are going to have an opinion, and especially like when it's friends and loved ones. I always try to like have the mindset of they're coming from a place of love, even though it's very irritating at times if they're giving you this input that maybe you don't want or you don't agree with.
Right.
And at the end of the day, that's for you to decide. No matter what anybody tells you, that's for you to decide on what's working for your relationship.
True words spoken. I don't have anything to say more.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's a great place to kind of just end. We appreciate you guys coming to the Nurse Converse podcast and hanging out with us for this special Pride episode. And I hope that you got some value out of this. And I'm sure that we'll be back. We have actually some surprises up our sleeve. Maybe you'll see us on another podcast. I don't know.
Yeah. Watch out. Stay tuned and follow our socials, NurseDaddies on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. And that's where we're at. And maybe from there, you'll find out more. We'll post something if there's anything that's going to come soon. And, we'll stay tuned. our sugar babies.
Period. And maybe we'll see you at a Pride event.
Yes,
Bye.
Thanks for joining Nurse Converse, brought to you by Nurse.org. Help us grow by leaving a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. Nurse.org supports nurses with career and education tips, life advice, and breaking news. Thank you for all you do and for being you.